Hey YouTube, how's it going? It's your man Ribs again with Ribs Doing Film Things. I hope you're all doing alright. If you like film photography and you're interested in videos about that subject, go ahead and subscribe as I drop a video every single week. Today I'm going to help you decide which method for film scanning is right for you. Should you invest in a transparency scanner such as the Epson V550, or should you just rely on your good old digital camera to help you do some scanning? To help you make this decision, we're going to be looking at the two options across these 5 categories: ease of use, speed of scanning, post-processing, image quality, and equipment cost. Alright, enough of the chit chat, let's get started. Alright, so round 1 is all about ease of use. First up is the digital camera method. As you can see, this is quite simple. You simply need to have a light table and a digital camera at the very least. Of course, you can add a couple other things, but that'll get you started. You simply put your negative on top of the light table, turn on the light table, and then snap your photo. The closer you can get to the image with your camera, the better. So having a micro lens is key here. If you don't have a macro lens, you can still do this method as well, but you won't be able to fill in as much of your sensor as possible with the camera picture. Overall, you see the digital camera method is quite easy. All you have to do is literally take a photo of your negative and you're all set. The setup part for the scanner method is also pretty easy. You open the scanner, place your negative in it, close the scanner, and you're ready to go. However, then you have to run the software and actually scan the image. This doesn't have to be hard, but it really depends on which software you use. There are different options out there, but of course the one that you choose is going to be the best one for you. At the end of the day, software is still required, and that is an extra step that you don't have with the digital camera method. Even though neither method is that complicated, I will have to say the digital camera method cannot be beat here. It is definitely the easier one to do. The big differentiator is that there is no software required for the digital camera method. All you need is a digital camera, whether it's a DSLR, mirrorless, or even your iPhone. That's it. Alright, so round 2 is about the speed of scanning. This matters a lot because when you have a bunch of negatives to go through, you don't want to spend all night doing that. Alright, so first up is the digital camera. There's really not much to say here. You basically line your negatives up and take a shot of each one. Typically that'll take you between 3 to 5 minutes depending on how fast you can do it, but the point is it doesn't take very much time at all. If you're using a scanner, it's a different story because you have to run the software for each negative. It all depends on your settings as well. The higher the resolution, the slower it's going to be. When using a proper scanner, scanning times will vary by the scanner and by the software, but generally it's definitely going to be a lot longer than the digital camera method. So for my process, I'm using ViewScan. My negative is already loaded into the scanner, and I'm going to go ahead and press scan. I'll go ahead and time it to see exactly how long this is going to take. Alright, so here we have our scan. That took a total of 1 minute and 49 seconds. It's not terribly long for 1600 DPI, but it is almost 2 minutes. This round's tough because for one, you're getting a digital camera scan, and here you're getting a very detailed scanner scan. So in general, it's hard to compare, but I'm gonna have to give the edge here to the digital camera. It is just simply way faster. It's a split second as opposed to 2 minutes. Alright, so round 3 is post-processing. With the digital camera file, it is a negative, so you do need to convert it in some sort of software. For the scanner file, that's already been converted into color by my scanner. You don't have to do that, but if you're scanning a lot of negatives, you can save a lot of time by letting the scanner do the color conversion for you. Of course, you can always go and tweak it in Lightroom or in some other software as well. Alright, so here we have both images side by side. The one on the left is from the digital camera, and the one on the right is the scan from the Epson V550. So we're actually going to start with the one from the digital camera and do a quick edit here. So I'm going to crop this so that I can use it with Negative Lav Pro. But before that, let me actually set the white balance as required by Negative Lav Pro. And then I'm going to go ahead and crop this within the borders so that Negative Lav Pro can do its thing pretty quickly. I'm going to keep it pretty rough here just because I want to show you the general process, but of course you can fine tune and tweak this and really put some extra time into it. So we'll go to ViewScan and then convert. Actually, I have 2 negatives here. Let me unselect that one. Okay. Select this as DSLR right here and then convert negative. Let it do its thing for a couple minutes. And now we have a conversion. As you can see, it's not great, so you're going to have to tweak this here, which is not always the case with Negative Lav Pro, but it really depends on what kind of exposure you have. Whereas with the scanner, it kind of spits out something that looks a bit more like what you would expect from a color perspective, but of course you see there's some green here. There's not a lot of contrast, so there's a lot to play with. At the end of the day, you probably are going to edit every single image that you scan regardless, even if just to crop really quickly and maybe to add some contrast in here and there. So both of these images, regardless of the method, require some post-processing. Scanning is just a requirement, and editing is also a follow-up step for film photography. If you get it done at a lab, trust me, they're editing the files as well, so you can't avoid editing. All right, so round 4, and this is all about image quality and resolution. This isn't entirely fair, only because it really depends on what digital camera you're using, and it also depends on how high of a DPI you're scanning your image if using a real scanner. Nonetheless, I think there is a lot of pixel peeping and comparisons that can be done when looking at the two samples. All right, looking at the two images here in Lightroom. On the left, we have the digital camera, and on the right, we have the scanner. If you zoom into the eye, you immediately start to see some of the differences between the two. First of all, there is noise right here, and that's definitely due to the camera. Depending on what camera you use, you're definitely gonna have some noise introduced to your image, even if you shoot at ISO 100. It all really depends on the camera. You can see here in the background as well, a lot of noise. On the right side with the scanner, you don't see any noise here in the lower eye and in the cheek area, and definitely no noise here in the sky. Just so you know, I did take the photo of this one on the left at ISO 100. So the fact that there's noise there is pretty interesting, but it was taken with a crop sensor camera and not the best one. It's the Canon M6. So noise is a very clear factor here. In terms of detail, that's where you see a bit less of a difference in terms of the amount of sharpness and detail you can pick up. Of course, these photos are edited differently, and therefore one is way more contrasty than the other, but the point is you can still see plenty of the thin hairs here. There's plenty of detail to go around. And on the right side here, there's a lot less contrast, so it's less obvious, but the point is you do get a really good amount of detail in your images. Here on the right side of her chest, you can also see that there's a lot of detail as well in the shirt. You can see a lot of the individual indents from where the fabric was put together. So again, plenty of detail, even with a crop sensor camera. On the whole, you can see that the camera definitely holds its weight when compared to the scanner, but there are some very clear differences. At the end of the day, I have to give this one to the scanner. The scanner doesn't care about ISO or anything like that. It is going to give you a very near perfection scan of whatever it is that you put in front of it. Whereas with the digital camera, it really depends on what camera you choose. So in terms of equipment, this is where it gets really interesting, especially because there's a lot of variance in what you could be using. For the digital camera setup, it really depends on what camera you use. If you have an existing camera, then perhaps you can consider it to be free, but you do still need to buy a light table, and a light table might cost you 20 bucks, 30 bucks. It really depends on which one you get. At the end of the day, you could consider this much cheaper than buying a full-blown scanner, because again, if you have your camera already, that doesn't cost you any additional money, and a light table is quite inexpensive. You might also want to buy a film holder in case your film is curled, but that doesn't cost much money either. Compared to a scanner, which costs at least $150 to $200, there's a very big difference. Scanners can run even more depending on which one you buy, so it all depends on the scanner that you get. However, price is not the only consideration here. It's actual use of space and just general feel. A scanner is very good to have because it is compact and it's just one item. You don't have to really fetch many things when you're setting up your scanner, although there are wires involved in that kind of thing. With a digital camera, you may want to get a tripod to get much more consistent results. You may also want to go get a macro lens to get something that gets you very close to your negative so you can fill your full frame size. So it could alter from there. It still might be cheaper than your scanner if you already have those things, but there is additional equipment that you have to source. It's kind of a piecemeal situation as opposed to the scanner where there's only one thing. For this one, I'm also going to give it a tie. There's just too many elements here for you to really pick one answer for every situation. It all really depends on what you, the photographer, already have in your arsenal. Okay, so we have 2 for the digital camera, 1 for the scanner, and 2 ties. It really isn't clear cut here. I guess the point is that it really depends on what your needs are and on what equipment you already have. Do you need a quick solution that you can use with your existing equipment, such as your digital camera? Then sure, go ahead with the digital camera setup. It's going to be very easy to use and it doesn't really require much investment on your part. Are you a serious photographer who wants very consistent and near perfect results every single time? Then then you probably want to go ahead and get a scanner. Maybe you start with the V550 like I did, or you immediately go for a more expensive one to give you even better results and functionality. It really is up to you. I think at the end of the day, you cannot disqualify either one of these options because they're both really good options for trying to scan negatives. Each one has its pros and cons, but at the end of the day, each one can give you a very good result that's good for things like social media and just general low-level file management. So what do you think, YouTube? Which one would you prefer? Which one do you currently use? Do you think one is definitely better than the other one? Let me know in the comments. I really want to know what you have to say. All right, so that's what I got for you today. I really hope this video was helpful. If so, please go ahead and give me a like. And like I said before, if you want to see more videos like this and about other film photography topics, go ahead and subscribe. Until next time, YouTube, peace.